the island of Roanoake. Today it stands as home to wealthy homeowners and visiting tourists on the East Coast. But what stands today is in stark contrast to its humble beginnings 435 years ago. Beginnings of adventure, intrigue, and a mystery. May 1587. English royalty had taken an interest in the New World and begun colonization. The chosen man for the job was none other than a dashing, debonair adventurer by the name of Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh, who had caught the eye of the Queen some time before, was forbidden from personally participating in colonizing the New World, choosing in his place a man named John White. White was chosen to lead the expedition as well as serve as sheriff upon arrival. So, with provisions in hand, White and 115 volunteers of men, women, and children from middle-class London set out across the sea to Virginia. After a long voyage and several bouts with cabin fever, White's 3 ships arrived at land in June 1587. However, for the 115 colonists, the voyage was not over. They were made to wait aboard ship while their leader went to look after the previous colony's well-being. What he found was shocking. The settlement was empty. Other than partially dismantled buildings, there was no sign that anyone had ever been there. What was left of the buildings were overgrown with melon and weeds. White searched the settlement from top to bottom without finding anyone. It was only then that he discovered the bones. Laying in a few scant piles were the bones of what he presumed to be a few of the settlers. On July 25th, the passengers disembarked to a different location, and one of the colonists, a man named George Howe, was killed by a native while searching for crabs shortly thereafter. After seeing these things, White attempted to re-establish relations with the Croatoans of the island, who informed him that a coalition of tribes had attacked the previous colony. The colonists sought to make a truce through the Croatoan, but received no reply. In a last-ditch effort, White led a preemptive attack against the coalition. At some point during the attack, White realized that the men he was attacking were actually Croatoan, and he had made a mistake. Once he had soothed over the misunderstanding, the colonists came to realize that they were in a bad position. They had brought no arms or military men of any kind. There was no way to defend themselves should something happen. The colonists ended up relocating 50 miles away, and reluctantly, on August 27th, White agreed to return to England to ask for help. But due to an attack by the Spanish fleet, White's ships were ordered to remain in England and fight. When the battle alleviated, White was able to talk Raleigh into allowing them to leave with supplies for Roanoake. But they were soon boarded by French pirates, and all was lost. It would be August 1590 before White was able to return. And once again, he discovered something shocking. When White's ships arrived, he noticed that there was smoke coming from the north end of the island. The next morning, they investigated another sighting of smoke on the south end, but no cause was discovered. And the day after that, a fire was spotted on the north end of the island. Men attempted to row towards it, but arrived after dark and didn't risk the venture, opting instead to remain in their boats and sing English songs in hopes that colonists would hear. Finally, the following day, the men made it to shore. When the ship finally docked, White noticed fresh footprints in the sand. With his ears up, he went to investigate the settlement. As he approached, he saw that the colony had been fortified, and a particular tree drew his attention. The tree itself was just as he had remembered it, with one exception. The word Croatoan had been painstakingly carved into the side of it. Once he had reached the colony, he saw that another word had been carved into the fortification, or perhaps a partial word, Crow. White pressed on, perhaps a little more cautiously than he would have otherwise. When he entered the colony, he was greeted by the bone-chilling sound of ominous silence. Not a living soul was in sight. And though he searched, he was unable to locate a single colonist. In fact, it appeared as though the entire colony had simply vanished. Buildings had been dismantled, and things that could be carried were missing, as well as the boats belonging to the colonists. The only thing that seemed to be remotely out of place was the unearthed and looted chests of personal belongings, including 3 belonging to White, that had been buried upon the arrival of the colonists. White desperately sought for answers, but found none. His intention was to return to investigate. However, a storm would make that impossible, and White was forced to leave, never to return to the New World, and never ultimately to know the fate of the 115 colonists of Roanoake. Theories abound as to what happened to the colonists of Roanoake. Theories ranging from the mundane to the downright bizarre have managed to find a home in the lost colony of Virginia. Everything from aliens and transdimensional beings to tribal warfare and lack of supplies have been blamed. But the only certain thing is that an entire colony vanished from the face of the earth without a trace.